Zark's Burgers, Philippines burger chain, Tombstone burger, 8 patties, plus a lot of cheese, French fries, some ketchup packets, and 1 blue lemonade. Can I finish the Zark's burger? Tombstone, rather. Woo, this is a lot. Wow, look at that. Look at all that cheese. Yummy. Tastes good. Some juices in here. Cheese juice. Get that with the bread.
Report impeaching President Donald Trump a second time for his role in inciting the deadly riot in the US Capitol. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has said the resolution will be introduced Monday if Trump does not resign. It includes impeachment for, quote, incitement of insurrection.
You can do it on a Saturday or
The
Sunday.
committee would meet on Monday or Tuesday to approve a rule governing a floor
Tuesday.
debate, and then a vote would likely take place on Tuesday
Slow.
or Wednesday. And we're delighted to say we've got veteran journalist Lawrence Pintack back with me from Fife in Scotland. Larry, trying to pick up where we left off, one thing I wanted to ask you about was so many disturbing images from that day, Wednesday, but a couple I found particularly so were men with sidearms and carrying hand restraints, which of course begs the question, who were they wanting to restrain? Do you get a sense there was more to this than impassioned Trump supporters making a point?
I do, and again, this is something you and I have seen in various parts of the world in revolutions. Quite often you'll see a mob like this that are inspired for some reason to storm something, but hidden in that mob are the real bad guys, those who are coming in with an agenda.
Got those restraints while they're already inside and then bring them in.
Kidnap, to kill, to destroy, and that's very concerning.
What do you think when you watch it, and then that core, that fervent group, the more extreme wing, if you like, of the base, what are the concerns that what Donald Trump could do with them in terms of mobilization or whatever post-presidency?
Well, I think it's more than Donald Trump. Yes, it may be Donald Trump that does it, but if Trump leaves the scene for whatever reason, they're now out there.
Burger
Like
patty.
to use an old tired cliche, the genie is out of the bottle. You have this group of militants who have now been empowered, who have now tasted blood, as it were, and how do we go forward? How does a Biden administration put that genie back in the bottle? How does law enforcement sideline, crush, jail, control in some way an armed force of militants who now see the possibilities?
Yeah, you have to wonder whether the Rubicon has been crossed in many ways. Larry Pintack.
The Rubicon has been crossed.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
By
it.
Julius Caesar.
More than 50 Capitol and Metropolitan Police were injured in the violence on Wednesday. One of them is an PD officer crushed as the chaos unfolded. Brian Todd has more on what happened and that officer's condition. Again, we warn you, some of the images are disturbing.
I already saw this.
A rioter sprays a chemical at police. Then it gets worse.
Good.
This was the horrifying scene on Wednesday inside
Level the playing field.
the west side of the Capitol. At one point, a rioter tries to pry the gas mask off an officer's face.
Yeah. Good.
The rioters organized their push, even chanting in unison.
Some elderly rioters too. Gray hair.
Then, sheer terror. An officer crushed against a door frame, pleading for help.
You gotta know when to give up. Give in.
We spoke with John Farina, a photojournalist for a media outlet called Status Coup, who recorded this video.
There was absolutely no talking to them. Nothing phased them, and there was no one main person, one main leader that could have calmed that mob down.
Farina told us rioters ripped shields and batons out of officers' hands and seemed to get more organized as they went along.
People were hurt and being crushed. So whenever somebody was hurt, they would kind of like pull them out of there, or they would walk out themselves, but then they would say, we need more people, we need fresh patriots. So it was just kind of like rotate in.
Eventually, the police pushed the mob back. Former Washington Police Chief Charles Ramsey, a CNN analyst, says he contacted current D.C. Police Chief Robert Conti, who Ramsey says confirmed to him that the officer seen being crushed is a Washington Metropolitan Police officer, not a Capitol Hill officer. As for the officer's condition,
He went through an MRI, and there was nothing broken. I mean, so he's sore as hell, there's no question about that.
we reached out several times to the Washington Metropolitan Police and the police union, as well as the Capitol Hill Police, for more information on the officer in question and his condition. They didn't get back to us. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
Jared Holt is a visiting research fellow at the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab, focusing on domestic extremism's threat to democracy. He joins me now from Washington, D.C., and just the right person to talk to. A lot of people look at the events of Wednesday and think, that was a close call, glad it failed. But what are you seeing among the online groups who took
wasn't a
part?
failure.
They see it as a failure, do they?
They got done when they
No,
wanted
they
to get
don't. A
done.
lot of the extremist groups that were on the ground, where we observed planning and then attempting this attack on the U.S. Capitol building, are taking this away as a kind of propaganda. There's discussions that we've observed in these groups of users talking to each other in congratulatory tones, speaking of this as a validator of proof that if they get their numbers together and focus on a central target, it is possible to accomplish the radical things that they hope to achieve.
Wow. In terms of the build-up, you and others were warning this could happen, that the chatter was dangerous and it was in plain sight. Give us a sense briefly of what you saw bubbling away in the weeks leading up to Wednesday, and when did you start to worry?
I started to worry in the immediate days before January 6th, and we saw that horrific attack on a federal building, the Capitol of all things, because in the online communities that we're watching at DFR Lab, there was all of this escalating rhetoric getting more and more violent. I was seeing maps of the U.S. Capitol complex being circulated. I was observing users advising each other on how to violate laws that prohibit carrying firearms in Washington, D.C. And I saw, frankly, a lot of logistical planning, plans to travel to D.C., accommodations while they were in D.C., from a lot of actors and extremist groups that are a whole host of bad news.
I guess, Trumpism, that anger that we saw, the calls for violence, they're not going to magically go away with Joe Biden's inauguration. What are these groups saying about, where they go from here?
Historically, extremist groups have been fairly, if not just outright, adversarial towards the government. This was something that we saw with anti-government extremism surging during the Obama years. And you're right, whenever Trump leaves office and officially Joe Biden takes the oath, all of these individuals are not going to vanish off the face of the map or decide all of a sudden that they're not so radical anymore. Instead, the major concern and the big threat here is that a lot of these groups will go from a sort of defensive posture of defending the president, acting on behalf of what they perceive the president wanting them to be doing, it's returning into a more adversarial position, but with more numbers and with a sometimes spoken, sometimes unspoken support of a larger group of millions of people who voted, supported, and believed the lies that President Donald Trump was spreading and fomenting about the integrity of our democracy.
Which is utterly terrifying. It's not really unsurprising. How serious are the most dangerous elements? People can say what they like, but on this we saw rioters with weapons, sidearms and other weaponry, and hand restraints, as if they were planning to take prisoners. Reporters heard rioters talking about hanging.
They got them once they got inside. That was reported on your network. Pay attention.
Willing to go, as opposed to just talked up.
Extremism, particularly right-wing extremism, has a long, storied, and deadly history in the United States. Right-wing terrorism makes up the majority of casualties that come from incidents like that in the United States. So there certainly are people who are prepared to take it even a step further than what we saw on Wednesday. And, as much legitimate and I think fully warranted questions and criticisms that Capitol Police are facing now about, letting a lot of these crowds overwhelm them or failing to prepare. Once it became clear what was happening, we can just really count ourselves lucky that some of the forces that were in there that were seeking to harm lawmakers or legitimately trying to destroy the government were unsuccessful. We can count our blessings that none of our lawmakers or their staff were injured or even killed.
The work you do is important,
The only thing wrong with what happened on January 6th, my 37th birthday, is that the Patriots were abandoned by their leader. Their leader, Donald Trump, said, "I will be there with you," and then he was not. That's the one thing that went wrong.
the details. Right.
Well, I'm full. But it's not called the Tombstone for nothing.
recyclable, and compostable by 2025. To mark its centenary, Dannon has allowed access to almost 2,000 of its yogurt strains to help scientific research into
Dannon.
food and health benefits.
I guess the essence
1,
of the
2,
story
3.
of Danone is entrepreneurship for health.
As rioters attacked the US Capitol, the world reacted to the events in shock, of course. Let's have a look at the front pages of a few newspapers. In giant bold letters, Canada's Ottawa Sun declared it anarchy. In Italy, one paper went with the headline, "Once upon a time there was America." And the Times of India with this eye-catching headline, "Ku Klux Klan Don triggers mob and rob bid." One of the president's biggest international allies, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, said this.
For generations, America
Give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what a terrorist leader has to say. I don't support terrorists like Israelis, so-called Israelis. You fucking squatter settlements in Palestine. Fuck you and what you have to say. Fuck you. Reporting live from Jerusalem, the capital of Palestine. Getting kind of tired of this burger taste. You know, the same texture over and over. Get some of these fries. Just take this out of here, please. A little bit of cheese juice in here. To do this shit. Right now, CNN is just spending time trying to legitimize a terrorist state. terrorist squatter settlement claiming to be a legitimate state.
Tension. Pompeo says he took this action unilaterally and will no longer appease communist China, as he put it.
Good.
Authorities in Indonesia say they have recovered some human remains among the wreckage of a Sriwijaya air flight that crashed at sea. The Indonesian Navy says it is confident they found the wreckage from the fuselage along with wheels from the landing gear after locating a signal. The plane had 62 passengers and crew on board. Rescue crews and a huge Navy flotilla searching the site. Fishermen in the area told CNN they heard an explosion and then had a large wave hit their boat around the time the plane was suspected to have crashed. The global flight tracking service Flight Radar 24 showed the plane dropping 10,000 feet in less than a minute before disappearing from radar. COVID vaccinations aren't keeping up with distribution in the US. When we come back, the race to get shots in arms as cases spike. We'll be right back.
Because they're too overly concerned about who the priority groups. Just give it out to everyone. Let people wait in line. Get it. No appointment. If you want to get it, just show up and get it. Boom, boom, boom. Redhead visiting Japan. Some of these guys, like the guy dressed up as a Viking, famous now. They just keep showing his face over and over. And the one guy with the really great beard, walking in the hall shouting something. Oh, God. He's hella famous too. And of course the guy sitting at Pelosi's desk with his feet up. The celebrities. Won't be forgotten anytime soon by their fellow humans. Play the same stupid story over and over. I don't care. Nobody cares. You're a Jamaican and you went to Indonesia, but then COVID lockdowns. Me no name. So what? Like, you know, like your mom and your sister and your boyfriend, they probably care. Nobody else. Why you get so much airtime on CNN? Janine Jakul. Who the fuck are you? Oh, Sanjay Gupta, the panic mongerer in chief of CNN. Oh, now we could die. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Death is natural, and if you're afraid of it, you're a child.
Cases and more than 372,000 fatalities. Staggering
Doesn't
number. At
matter.
least 5 states
Doesn't
have
matter.
hit 1 million cases or more on their own. Now these stunning numbers make the need, obviously,
Cases
for
especially don't
vaccinations
matter.
that much more urgent. According to the Centers for Disease Control,
Deaths don't
more than
matter at all.
22 million vaccines
Cases even
have
less
been
so.
distributed around the US, but less than 7 million have been administered. CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, was in that first wave of people to get the vaccine last month and just received his booster shot. More from him now on what the experience was like and the efforts to get the vaccine into more American arms.
So I did get my second dose of the Pfizer vaccine 3 weeks to the day after I received the first dose back on December 18th. I gotta tell you, I had some mild arm soreness after the first dose. After the second dose, typically people have more symptoms. About 15% of people have noticeable symptoms, according to the head of Operation Warp Speed. Again, arm pain, sometimes low-grade fever, muscle aches, joint pain, and sometimes general tiredness or lethargy. Typically lasts a couple of days, and it's a sign that your immune system is actually working. Why people have symptoms when they get infections is typically because of their immune system reacting to the virus in this case. So I'll let you know how this continues to go, but I've been feeling pretty well. A couple points. One is these vaccines, they say, are 95% effective. What does that mean exactly, 95% effective? Well, what that really means is that you're 95% protected against getting the illness, getting the symptoms of the disease, but you're not necessarily protected against actually carrying the virus or even transmitting it, which is why you hear over and over again that people do need to continue to wear masks even
Fuck
after
you.
they've been vaccinated.
Fuck you.
Also,
I get my
we have
vaccination
enough doses, and the
going back
distribution
to
of those doses.
100%
One thing we've heard recently
2019
from
normal.
is that he is encouraging
Fuck you.
that as many doses as possible just be utilized, that people get their first doses as quickly as possible and hope that the manufacturing keeps up with the second doses. We'll see. We know that Pfizer has promised 200 million doses to the United States. Moderna has promised 200 million doses. Johnson & Johnson and Oxford AstraZeneca are in phase 3 clinical trials, and they may make up some of the shortfall as well. Lots of moving parts here to get the country vaccinated. That gives you a little bit of an idea of how it's going and how it feels as well.
Something good to that. The UK's
Throwing down here.
and Prince Philip have received COVID-19 vaccinations.
Yeah.
A source says a doctor administered the shots to the 94-year-old monarch and
Well,
her
less than
99-year-old husband at Windsor Castle. The source also said that
Where I
we
used to go.
wanted news of their injections to be made public to prevent inaccuracies and speculation. England, of course,
93
in the midst of a severe
and
lockdown,
99.
London's been
Tough.
describing the situation
These people are
as
gonna live
under
forever.
control and a major incident. Pope Francis also encouraging people to get the injections. The Vatican has already called the vaccinations morally acceptable, even if they were produced with cell lines obtained in abortions. And the Catholic leader says he's ready to roll up his sleeve. In an interview with Italy's Channel 5, he said, quote, "It's an ethical duty to take the vaccine. Here in the Vatican, we will start next week. I am also in line to take it." Thanks for watching the program, everyone. Spending part of your day with me. I'm Michael Holmes, but if you want some more, I'll be back.
How do I get in line?
News in a moment.
Thinking of banking in Africa. Thinks
No. Physically or digitally. else on here? Lucy Earth has cats. Just various still photos of cats. Now it's big crashing waves. Some woman explaining something. What is this?
You can get the door open, and that's when the panic starts to set in.
By the time Superstorm Sandy strikes the New York area in 2012, it has become the largest Atlantic hurricane ever, with a diameter of nearly
I remember that.
1,000 miles. Kim Joyce and her boyfriend Billy are preparing to evacuate with their 9 cats when their Staten Island beach house is slammed by the storm surge.
Bitch slammed the front door shut and we couldn't get the door open because of the water. Then the water started to fill up and rise
Water?
in the house and we realized we're trapped.
In preparation for the storm, Kim and Billy have boarded up the entire house, except for 2 small windows next to the front door. Now, those windows are the only way out.
Billy was strong enough to just rip the frame out and he pushed me through. He just gave me 2 of my cats and he said, swim as fast as you can.
She finds herself in a desperate situation where she's got to move her cats across water in the middle of a hurricane, and that's easier said than done. The best and safest way to do this is to find a household container like this kitty litter pail that you can seal up tight that won't let water in, and it'll double as a flotation device. Now, Julius isn't gonna like being inside of this bucket, but it's a whole lot better than being underneath water. There we go. We're gonna put the lid on tight. Now that the lid is on, it's a race for time because there's a limited amount of air inside of this container. To make doubly sure that it doesn't leak, I'm going to put a couple of strips of duct tape around the seal. Perfect. So I'm going to take a length of string, just a shoelace or anything you can find around the house. And I'm actually going to tether this to my body. I'm going to tie it to the handle, and then I'm going to tie it really tight around my belt. Certainly isn't ideal, but under the circumstances, it's the best shot that we've got at Logan. And just like Kim, there's a little tiny window to go through, and then we'll swim to safety. I can swim a long way like this. It's like a life preserver. But I can't forget, there's a cat up there, so I've got to hurry up and get to shore. It's a bit of a rough ride. The alternative could be way worse. Unfortunately, Sandy's storm surge comes on so suddenly, there's no way for Kim to prepare for it.
There's nothing I can do but start swimming for my animals, so I just grabbed them and I didn't really know where I was going or what I was going to do.
Weighted down by a rain jacket, rubber boots, and 2 frantic cats, Kim is completely at the mercy of the elements.
I didn't see anybody. It was scary. It was me in the ocean, that's how I felt.
What Kim needed more than anything is a life preserver. What she didn't know is that she actually had one with her, her pants. It all starts with taking your pants off, which is easier said than done while treading water. Once you got your pants off, you want to tie the 2 ankles together in 2 overhand knots. Like that, and like that. Nice and tight. Now we want to zip up the zipper and button the fly. We're going to put this hoop, these legs, over our head with the zipper against our chest. Once that's around our neck, we're gonna take our hand in a cup and punch balls into the pants. It's gonna fill our life reserve. And once they're full, I'm gonna hold this up against my chest. Lean back and relax. Staying above turbulent water is Kim's best chance of making it out alive.
Very soon, Kim is forced to make a heart-wrenching decision. The two cats, Dylan and Cleo, are even more panicked than she is.
Trying to hold the two cats, my boots were filling up with water and the water was over my head. And Dylan became frantic, he became afraid and he started clawing and trying to get on my head.
Yeah. So cats are gonna
So
do.
it was terrifying to know that I had to let Dylan go in order to save my own life.
As hard as it is, Kim has done the right thing. She has no idea how long she'll have to swim, and she needs all the energy she can muster.
But the water was just so high and so fierce for me to try and keep my head above and swim with my cat Cleo that I just swam where it took me. And then I got hooked on something. And it turned out to be a cinder block fence where I was able to stop and catch a breath for a second.
It is then that Kim sees salvation, a candlelight flickering in a nearby window and people moving around inside.
So I jumped in with Cleo and we swam through the house and we got to the stairs and there were people at the top of the stairs and they helped me up and they got me in the house and they kept me safe there.
Several hours later, after the water recedes, a policeman drives Kim to her mother's house, where she reunites with her boyfriend, who had also struggled to swim to higher ground, not knowing if Kim had survived the storm.
So you could imagine when we saw each other, we were just so happy that we both got out of this horrible situation alive.
As for Kim, she still lives on Staten Island, but she vows to never ignore another storm warning.
So if they tell you to leave, leave. No matter how much of an inconvenience that you think it may be, it can save your life. Or the life of your pets.
What?
Like hurricanes, no two storm surges have the same impact. On Staten Island, for instance, Sandy's surge maxes out at around 13 feet. Now, raise that water level by 57% to around 20 feet. Then imagine you live in Crystal Beach on the Bolivar Peninsula in Texas, with an average elevation of just 10 feet above sea level. That's the nightmare facing a bed and breakfast owner named Carol Hamady when Hurricane Ike roars through in 2008.
I heard a big swish and the whole block was gone. Boats, campers, houses, gone.
Ike makes landfall as a relatively moderate Category 2 hurricane, and the storm's wind field is huge.
It's not easy.
The hurricane had no
not
trouble
easy.
pushing the waters of the Gulf of Mexico toward the southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana coastlines. And that's why we ended up having a storm surge disaster.
I was going to evacuate on Wednesday or Thursday prior to when the hurricane was supposed to make landfall.
But
On Tuesday, September the 10th, Carol picks up her friend Diane, who lives in Gilchrist at the eastern end of the peninsula. The two women agree to take in another woman from the area who has no one to look after her.
We went back to the B&B where we all settled in to plan to spend 1 or 2 nights before we were going to evacuate.
But out of the blue, the elderly woman, probably stressed out and frightened, adamantly declares that she will not leave until the next day.
There was no way we could wait till the morning. We'd be underwater and it'd be impossible to leave. She said, I don't care. I'm locking my door. I'm going to bed.
For Carol and Diane, it is a shocking truth.
As an RN, I felt
Leave her there,
to
then.
help her. And as a Christian,
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave her to die. But then, I didn't want us to die either.
From the beginning, all matter has been explained by thought.
Make a decision like that, and you live with the consequences. You die. Last patty and a half. Oh man, not easy. My stomach and my brain are telling me to stop. That's enough. Oh man.
Trump immediately turns on him. What it confirms is that Trump is willing to discard anyone at any moment if they don't act as sycophants.
Well, do the events of the past week, do you think, put a dent of any type in the Trump magic, if you like, with some of his base? Not the radical base we saw at the Capitol, that's a different group, but in the broader electorate, do you think he's being harmed?
Well, Michael, I think that Trump's stranglehold over the GOP base isn't fragile, and I really doubt that it's going to dissipate overnight. His approval among Republican voters has remained consistently around 90% throughout his administration. Last time Democrats impeached Trump, his poll numbers actually went up, not down. And according to one survey, which you may have seen, upwards of 45%, shockingly, of Republican voters either somewhat or strongly approved of the storming of the Capitol. So regrettably, that's just the political landscape that we're in at the moment. While clearly there will be some political recoil among moderates, and we'll continue to see a fractured party, it probably won't be enough to totally undo Trump's magic with his base, and especially if he's impeached, it might only further his martyr-like status with the far right.
You know, it's interesting, we were just reporting that Trump has not ordered the flag at the White House to half staff for that policeman killed in the uprising. That's just extraordinary. Do you think the president is even aware of the magnitude of the effect of his actions? Is it in his nature to even care?
Well, clearly Trump is in a through-the-looking-glass type world. Not only do I think that Trump doesn't understand or care about the magnitude of the events last week, he seems to actually believe that the storming of the Capitol had some merit to it. According to reports, he more or less gleefully watched as the mob stormed the Capitol, and his main concern apparently was how the rioters looked aesthetically. Apparently he felt that they seemed too low class for his taste, and Trump didn't like that. Paragon of U.S. democracy is under attack, and that's what Trump's thoughts are. But everything that we've seen from the president, including telling the mob that he loved them, continuing to broadcast these baseless allegations of electoral fraud, all of that is reflective of the fact that Trump is totally numb to what's happening.
Yeah, good way of putting it. Looking forward, the Senate is 50-50 Republican-Democrat. There's the smallest majority in years, and a significant slice of the country who thinks their guy was robbed in the election. How does Joe Biden govern in that environment? He talks about working across the aisle, but realistically, can he do that?
And bread.
It's going to be very difficult, Michael. Clearly, Democrats have the work cut out for them in the coming years. The very slim majority that they will enjoy in the House and only a tie-breaking majority in the Senate means that they have almost no political margin to work with. If Democrats do want to be successful, I think, especially if they look at midterms upcoming, which tends to favor the party out of office, they'll need to focus on, I think, some of these bread and butter issues.
Bread and butter? No, thank you.
Retribution for the last several
I got this to finish. I don't need any bread and butter.
This aspiration that Joe Biden has articulated about bringing the country together, healing wounds, and ending some of these divisions. The top of the agenda, of course, for Democrats is going to be containing COVID-19, potentially getting another stimulus package passed, and hopefully getting Americans back to work. Then they can focus on some of these other issues: healthcare, education, inequality, wage stagnation, and so on. But all accounts suggest that it's going to be a very difficult period of governing.
Yeah, it certainly does appear that you're right about that. Thomas Gift, always a pleasure. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, Parler, that social media platform touted as the home of free speech online, has effectively been shut down. Apple and Google have removed the app from their online stores, so there's no new downloads. And Amazon is revoking its web service on Sunday night, which will render it homeless. The app is popular among some US conservatives, but both Apple and Amazon terminated service, saying Parler had not done enough to prevent the spread of dangerous and illegal content. Now, this, of course, comes after US President Donald Trump and his campaign team were permanently banned from Twitter due to a future risk of, quote, further incitement of violence. Right now, law enforcement agencies across the US are hunting down people involved in Wednesday's insurrection in Washington. Dozens of people now face charges. Coming up, new details on the investigations.
They weren't trying to hide their identity. Because they were proud of what they were doing. They're passionate patriots. This is actually a little easier than the penultimate patty because it has the bread, the taste of the bread, kind of sweet, breaks out the repetitive taste of the burger patty. Romagnolia. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, here we go. Next bite.
Obviously, we all feel a sense of fatigue because of this pandemic. But I also sense a very strong understanding.
No, it's not really the pandemic. It's the reaction to the pandemic. The lockdowns. Nobody's forcing you to lock down. Virus is what it is. It's going to kill some people. Your reaction to it, that's up to you. The fatigue is because of the decisions you made, leaders of the world. Could be like Belarus. Ignore it. And there's no fatigue, there's no damage to the economy, etc. I'm seeing fucking commercials. I'm fucking seeing as commercials too, I mean, new commercials. Beating heart in somebody's hand.
I can't get over that.
So the symbolism is that you will gain courage from doing it and your fears will be removed. You up for that?
I don't know if I can
can swallow that. I don't even think I can get that down.
You just gotta follow your own heart. But I think you should do it. I think you should close your eyes.
Yeah, I can't.
So little, so it's like a chicken nugget.
It's gonna make me sick.
And if I take it, will it do me good? It'll do good? Okay, thank you. So I just swallow? Pure heart. Oh. That wasn't too bad. The treatment concludes with a medicinal drink, which means another sacrifice. Dr. Alfred mixes the chicken blood with his secret selection of herbs, the contents of which he does not reveal to anyone. Your legs are jiggling. Does this mean anxiety levels are rising?
No.
A spoonful of honey helps the medicine go down.
Looks like tea. With blood in it. Cheers. Salute. Thank you.
The worst part about the whole experience was just him removing the heart from the chicken and giving it to me beating. I couldn't stomach that. It's going to help my anxiety in one way. He literally scared the anxiety out of me because I never want to do that again.
Dwight's up next. How will he find his treatment?
Thank you.
Dwight hails from Michigan, where, despite being a triple black belt, he's had chronic back and joint pain for most of his adult life.
About 4 years ago, I was driving home from work and I fell asleep. And I went up the road and I hit a light pole. And I fractured my L3 and my L4 vertebrae. I can't, put on my shoes and socks. And it's like when you sit down and somebody with my leg out, and like figure out some other way.
Arthritis further aggravates Dwight's condition.
I've tried pain medication and therapy and stretching, but there's no cure in the USA for arthritis.
But Dr. Alfred believes he has the solution.
Devil's claw.
Devil's claw. Devil's claw.
Now this one I've actually heard of, and it contains iridoid glycosides, which have been used in the US in phase 2 trials for hip and knee rheumatoid arthritis. So it's got some real science involved in looking at this. Thank you.
Dr. Alfred pounds the devil's claw into a paste to extract its medicinal properties.
There you go. Take a seat, bud.
Dwight's eager to lend Dr. Alfred some muscle.
Okay. So Dr. Alfred, you believe this is better than Western medicine?
Then, out of nowhere, Dr. Alfred produces a resin, wondering where this treatment's heading.
Where are you going to incise me?
You're a man. You're a man, don't be afraid. So that's how he's going to get it into your body. So you're going to be cutting into Dwight's body about 10 different places and pushing the medicine into that. Are you sure you're up for that? Usually, Dr. Alfred uses the same blade on several patients and washes it in between. I've asked him to use this blade just on Dwight, but I'm not sure if that is enough to persuade Dwight that he wants to have 10 cuts on his body and herbs pushed in. I'm going to ask him to.
It's a big decision.
Do it, Dwight. Do it.
Hold it. Ready.
Dwight's going with the razor blade. While modern medicine would use an injection, Dr. Alfred believes that the cuts will allow the medicine to enter directly into Dwight's bloodstream. He cuts the joints most prone to arthritic inflammation.
It's a lot more than 10 cuts, it's like 5 or 6 on every single place.
Okay, where next? This is a little bit worrying, using a razor blade on someone's spine, but Dr. Alpha's done this many times.
As the cuts begin to see, he quickly applies the devil's claw mixture.
I feel it stings a little bit, burns, a little burning. And it's not from the cuts, it's from what's going into the cut. I can feel it.
At first sight, cutting into the body and putting herbs into it looks very strange, I admit, but it makes sense to me because I have seen that Dwight's skin has responded to whatever has been pushed in there. There's been, like a mosquito bite there, so something has gone in.
After a long day of treatments, I've checked us into local accommodations. I'm curious to hear if Dr. Alfred's potion has worked for Jenna.
This is the chicken blood mixture I was supposed to drink. Tastes like pure crapola. And I'm gonna pass it on to the next guy or the sink.
But Dwight seems a little more open-minded.
It's too soon to tell for sure it's going to work. These things aren't immediate cures even the doctor says they're not magic, but I believe there's some merit to the herbs and the pharmaceutical quality of them.
For the last 16 years, Dwight's also suffered from sleep apnea. And, as usual, he's having a restless night.
I went to a sleep study and they said that I stopped breathing 57 times in an hour for over 30 seconds at a time. So they call it severe sleep apnea.
Because Dwight stops breathing, he could have a heart attack. His family's worried, so they've taken drastic action.
I haven't really got a good night's sleep in a long time, so recently, just this week, they gave me a machine to use. It pumps air into my lungs and helps me sleep.
But the machine isn't a cure.
If I could cure the sleep apnea through a traditional way and not have to be hooked up to a machine, it'd be worth its price.
It's day 2. We're out in central Yaoundé.
Are you alright?
Oh, green.
Green.
Dwight's exhausted and is desperate for a remedy. I know just the person to take him to.
Now, Dr. Scheller is famous around here for treating sleep disorders, and people will travel for like 8 hours to try her special technique. Dr. Scheller,
Yes, mommy.
thank you.
Welcome. Why don't you?
Dr. Scheller's treatments are both medicinal and spiritual.
When I sleep, I might see in a dream that this particular illness, you will be treated with this.
So in your dreams you find out which
Yes.
plants to use for which patient?
Yes, I dream it.
For the treatment to work, Dwight must undergo a blessing. He's confronted by a familiar sight.
Chickens.
Told to pray.
Chicken.
for giving your life. For me.
Fine. Mostly,
Accept,
normally, as before.
accept my sleep disorder and hereby
Another problem. As for
help
from
me
here,
sleep.
all our foreign life she disappeared and came from me. I will stay finally. I will live normally as God made me to live.
Dwight is giving the treatment the best chance he can give it by believing in it in the moment. And if the treatment relies on the placebo effect, he is doing exactly the right thing.
Remove all the bad spirit from him and protect him from all anxieties. When he goes back to his destination, he will live well as God has made him to live.
If Dwight's chicken falls asleep, his prayers are answered and he'll sleep soundly tonight.
Sleep till in the morning.
Oh, this ice.
Sleep till in the morning.
It's sleeping.
Catch the head.
Touch it.
Catch the head. You catch the head when sleeping.
Catch it when it's sleeping with it.
Go like this.
It all sort of came to a climax when the chicken's held upside down and Dr. Shuller is saying, sleep if the patient will sleep. So she's talking to the chicken and talking to the patient saying, look, the chicken will show you just how well you're going to sleep tonight.
When she held the chicken upside down and she was trying to help me with my sleeping disorder, quite frankly, a little skeptical about all that part, but I do like the fact that they pray. That's good.
As they leave, Dr. Shuller gives Dwight a mixture of pounded herbs and plants to inhale before he goes to bed. It's a family secret she won't reveal, but she promises it will help him sleep.
See, like it smells like spice.
Yes, that's strong.
Doesn't seem to be doing any bad effect.
I like it.
I don't know what it is, but the night just got way better.
Oh man, I feel really good. I feel very relaxed because of the treatment I just did. And I think I'm gonna have a pretty good night's sleep. We'll find out. Hi. You guys think? Yeah, something good. Yeah, something about, $5 straight hours.
5 straight hours?
Yeah.
That is a lot. That is like 4 straight hours longer than last night.
Yeah.
And how many hours do you normally sleep a night?
I usually wake up about every hour in the hour. Because I know, I've been told I wake up a lot more than that, but that's what I know for sure.
So 5 straight hours is actually quite good.
It's really good.
Wow. I'm impressed. For the first time in years, Dwight's had a decent night's sleep.
Hello, maggots.
But we're 3 days into the experiment, and Jenna's had no success treating her anxiety.
She wouldn't
I'm
swallow the
taking her to the
needle.
outskirts of Yaoundé to meet a healer who specializes in this condition. Dr. Abdoulaye acts out a patient's worst fears. In Jenna's case, claustrophobia. So she's going to lie in a shallow grave. So, I don't want you to do anything that is going to make you more anxious, and I saw you sort of jiggling a bit from foot to foot, which is usually a sign that you're feeling a bit nervous. So, don't do anything that's going to make it worse. Okay?
Gotcha.
But before she makes her decision, he needs to bury something else first.
Chicken, of course.
Dr. Abdoulaye claims he can transfer anxiety from a human onto an animal. To do this, this chicken must go through a similar procedure to Jenna.
Africa, India, I know I don't, and some of them are with the family. So I'm going to go with Swallow and be there. Yeah, you will wait. Won't be able to see no problem. son lo sí me voy a durar ni
The chicken has gone very quiet.
I'd like to just think that it's hanging out or chilling underneath the laughter.
But now it's the moment of truth for Jenna. Will she take the plunge? It does seem that a lot of these treatments are about confronting fears and just proving to yourself that you can get through it. And interestingly, this reminds me of a very well-established behavioral therapy technique called flooding, where you are, if you're scared of spiders, you're told to imagine lots of hideous, hairy spiders, and if you're claustrophobic, a shallow grave, I guess, is the place to go. But to be honest, do you feel that there's any possibility it could help?
Anybody with anxiety and trying to deal with it, they're looking for calmness and serenity. I feel like a lot of the treatments play on just making people more nervous and scared. But hey, we're going to show the world what works and what doesn't, so let's do it.
A white sheep represents the pure spirits that will protect Jen. And the candle flames will burn any dark forces that dare to get close. And where are your anxiety levels from 1 to 10?
We're about a 2 right now.
Okay.
Pretty calm.
Yeah.
Mark and Carla.
So a veces fraudulento porque fraudulento imagina y dice timidez y me dice
the goal of flooding is for the patient to challenge their fears head on and replace them with a relaxed state.
What you're doing though is making me very calm, and I give you more my belief.
The climate is about to change. Made the announcement on Saturday. China views Taiwan as a renegade province, and American dealings with the democratically ruled island have long been a source of tension. Pompeo said the old US restrictions were meant to appease China's communist regime. No more, he says. The US is hitting several sobering milestones in the new year, and vaccines, well, they're not rolling out nearly as fast as promised. We'll have the latest on efforts to ramp up inoculations just ahead. Also this, confirmed COVID cases surging in the UK to levels not seen anywhere in Western Europe.
Embark on an epic aerial adventure as National Geographic takes to the skies. We explore some of the world's most breathtaking sights as you've never seen before. Elevate your perspective. Brand new, Earth from Above, Tuesday nights at 9 on National Geographic. In a world of logistics, there's no room for error. Stop. From high value to high volume. Supersized to slightly strange.
if we don't show the pressure, there is a pressure.
This dedicated workforce race against the clock to deliver their precious cargo in one piece.
Oh my God.
Brand new Ultimate Movers. Wednesday nights at 9 on
There's a little bit left.
Geographic. Introducing the future of food.
Future of food. I want to talk about food. this much left. Then I can lay down over there and go into a coma.
After 20 minutes, Jenna couldn't look more serene.
Thank you.
So really, I don't follow and I'm fight for look for sign. Chicken noises. We are very much hoping the chicken is alive. That is a good omen. The chicken is dead, bad omen. The chicken is very much alive. Hey, it's good to see you. Happy chicken. Happy chicken.
The chicken survived its burial, which, according to Dr. Adeline, means that Jenna is cured of her anxiety.
White candles, shallow grave, and chicken blood. I mean, it totally looks like witchcraft, but I think Jenna actually got something from it, and I'm really proud that she did it.
I am happy it's alive. My new pet. Thank you.
Just as Dr. Adeline is ready to conclude the treatment, 15 armed police turn up, demand we stop filming, and arrest us. The whole team are arrested and detained in a police station back in the city.
For what?
After 5 hours of being interrogated in a Cameroonian police station, we are released and in shock.
Well, I am very sorry about that. That was not what I expected to happen. But that was not on the treatment list, being arrested by armed police. So, yeah, on behalf of Cameroon and the program, sorry about that.
Thank you for the wonderful experience, Africa. The neighbors had called in the police, the neighborhood watch, and they rolled up, machine guns in hand, and questioned us about what was going on. The neighbors were under the assumption that I was being buried and killed and that my life was in danger.
All walking around with fingers on the triggers of their AK-47s. So, I can see what she did about it before that.
It was really frustrating to not be able to see how well the treatment might work for her, because suddenly she's thrown into a highly stressful armed guard arrest and custody situations.
I really appreciate the arresting part. Didn't really need that in my day.
We are 4 days into our medical experiment,
Yes,
and
neighbors.
after our arrest, Jenna's anxiety has increased. And I'm running out of time to find a cure for Dwight's back pain. Dr. Alfred's invited us back to take part in a cleansing ceremony.
Welcome. Good to see you. Looking good.
I feel like we look fabulous.
He instructs us to take our clothes off and then disappears. He returns with a goat, and we're immediately suspicious.
Please, anyone. What's going to happen?
You'll cleanse us with the blood from the goat. How does that help our health?
Yeah, so how do you feel about that? The goat is going to die to protect us.
I'm not too sure it's going to work, but I came to Africa for a reason to try it, and I was giving my best.
Animal sacrifice has occurred in religions all around the world for symbolic and spiritual rituals. sees the cleansing as a spiritual blood transfusion, where blood from a healthy animal cleans the impurities from a sick human. I don't know of any medical evidence for this, but so much of Cameroonian medicine is based on belief.
Simply ridiculous.
The placebo effect is where a patient's expectation that a treatment will work makes them believe
Almost
that
done.
it has worked, and I'm willing to give it a go if it will help Jenna and Dwight. So how long do we have to leave this on for? Okay, so we're sleeping, Evelyn. Try and look.
It really feels like stepping back in time. Here we go. This is what people have been doing for thousands of years. It's like something out of the Bible, the scapegoat, taking my sins upon it and being slaughtered
Scapegoat.
in front of me and
that's where it comes
dying
from.
on my behalf. It's kind of biblical.
The ritual must end with us blessing the goat by eating it. Dr. Alfred
Yeah, of course.
scrapes away the hide. His family will share our feast. The thought being that by sharing the animal that helped us, we are spreading our well-being to the whole neighborhood.
I have to say it's one of the strangest things I've ever done. I really can't see how it's going to work, but I'm still going to keep an open mind.
Just feel a little dirty, little sticky and gross, a little aggravated because I'm covered in all this crap.
Jenna.
Of dead goat,
Yeah.
we make our way back to the
Jenna
apartment.
Jameson? Is that Jenna Jameson?
Jenna can't take it any longer.
The goat getting killed was absolutely ridiculous. There are certain things that happen that are completely uncalled for. That, my friends, is one of them.
It's day 5 of our experiment. We're heading on a 10-hour drive through rocky terrain to Kempoman rainforest on Cameroon's southern coast. We're going to meet one of the oldest tribes on Earth for some extreme medical treatments.
These people call themselves the Bagili, and the outside world knows them as pygmies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The Bagili have been practicing ancient traditional medicine for thousands of years. Their methods combine spirituality and plants from the forest to help cure the sick. This village has never been filmed before. To the Bagili, the forest is God, and we're invited to watch a dance that invokes the spirit of the forest to bless the village.
Oh my god.
The Bagili have extreme techniques for curing patients. They perform a secret ceremony called the Minkura to help Dwight and particularly Jenna to overcome her anxiety. The elders refuse to tell us what's going to happen.